record. So I'm going to act like I hit the record button to just now. Welcome everybody. If you're not, great way to start the webinar, Brian. So yeah, this is Civil Chat. As you can see, we're super formal here. My name is Brian. That guy over there is Brian. He might be over there. I don't know. And this is Civil Chat. So we also typically have another Brian, but Brian can't be with us today. So you're just stuck with Brian and Brian. Sorry about that. But yeah, so if this is your first time to Civil Chat, this is your chance to ask questions, and I do my best to answer them. I can't guarantee I will have a good answer for everything, but we'll try to figure things out. When you do ask questions, we ask that you please put them in the Q&A pod. It makes it a lot easier for us to manage everything and make sure that questions aren't missed. If you put them in the chat, there's a chance that they might get missed. But if you all don't ask questions, then we don't have any questions to answer, and we'll just sit around and, I don't know, talk about how green the grass is getting, or why my kids have decided to graduate high school and want to go to college and cost me a bunch of money.
I do say, though, if it's an extremely difficult question, put it in the chat, so therefore we can ignore it, because we can say you put it in the chat.
Right. So yeah, so currently we have no questions, so feel free to ask anything you like. Nothing is off the table, but if it's inappropriate, we might skip it. I would typically like to start off showing something, so let me go ahead and share my screen here. I'll share that screen. Share. So I got Civil 3D 2024 up here now. And I wanted to show off a couple of things that I really like about Civil 3D 2024. AutoCAD 2024 is in there as well. This kind of came up earlier. I was in a webinar with Jason Artley and Mike, can't think of his last name. They're with ATG, and they do a Bluebeam webinar once a week. And the topic of text in the stupid SHX, when you plot out of AutoCAD to PDF, is just so freaking annoying, right? So let me go ahead and open up a drawing here that I know has just the evil text in it. All right, so this is just one of the sample files that comes with AutoCAD. This is for the sheet set manager. And the problem is when you have SHX fonts, right? So we got these evil SHX fonts. I don't know if y'all can see that or not. It doesn't really matter. They're just evil. There we go. All right. So when I plot this, all right, it typically what it would do is it either wouldn't do anything, and then you would just have lines in your PDF that are just lines, or it would create a markup in the PDF that you could then search for, right? But then you have a whole list of markups in the PDF, and it's just really annoying. So the command is, what is it? PDF SHX is the command. And before there were two variables to it, 1 and 0 and 1. So 0 was, just plot it, create it like line work. 1 was, hey, go ahead and create it, but put a markup on top of each piece of text so that, you know, the PDF program could search for it. But now we have a value of 2. So if I go into the help system here, you can see 2 creates hidden text from objects that use SHX fonts. All right, so I've got a couple of files here, and so I plotted these using all 3 different methods. All right, so here it is plotted with, you know, PDF SHX set to 0. You can see there are no markups down below here in the markup list. But the problem is if I come in here and I say, hey, I want to search for, I'm just going to do a Control F and C sheet 7, right? It doesn't find anything because this is not text. This just lines in the PDF. Now, if I come over here to this file, and this is the one that was created with the PDF SHX set to 1, right? What we have is we have this silly markup stuff on top of it, right? And it's just annoying. And your markup list gets full of them. You know, you can see there's like hundreds of these markups in this sheet, and it's just so freaking annoying. But the nice thing about it is if I do a Control F and I do, you know, C sheet 7, it'll actually find it because it's in the markup list. But when we have PDF SHX now set to 2, right, you can see there's nothing in the markup list. And if I select in here, there's nothing to select here. But when I do a search, so again, Control F, C sheet 7, I don't know why I retyped that, it was the default, it still finds it. So this is a new system variable that's available now in AutoCAD 2024. So when you decide to update to 2024, I would definitely recommend setting that as a default. Put it in the ACAD doc.list. Make sure it's always set. I don't remember. Is it saved? It's saved in the registry, so you could do it in the ACAD.lisp as well. Once you set it, you don't have to worry about it anymore. But I know I would have users that might accidentally change it. How they would accidentally change a system variable like this, I don't know, but I know somebody would. So I would I'm planning on setting this up in our Lisp routines that gets launched when we launch the program to always set this value to 2, because that's the way it should be. Unless anybody's heard of any reason why it should be anything other than 2. I'd love to hear if anybody does.
Do you know if that is the default value? I don't know why it wouldn't
Default
be, but
value
do you
was
know if
1.
it is? That's just stupid.
Yeah. Well,
Things like that I know they try to keep historic
right.
settings, but there's features like that's just so groundbreaking. Screw the historic crap and just change it to be what it should be.
I totally agree. Oh, Chris asked a good question. Does it bloat the PDF with a setting of 2 versus 1 versus 0? I have no idea, but I've got the file saved here, so let's go take a look. See, I put them in here, I believe. Where did I put those? All right, let me just do this. This is an easy way to find it. Where's review? There's review. If you just right click on the tab, you can explore the document folder. This is a Bluebeam thing. I don't know if it works in other programs as well. There you go. Yeah, I mean, it's so much bigger. It's 22 more kilobytes. So it's a little bit bigger, but I don't know. I think it's worth it. If you never need to search for text, let's set it to 0 and your PDFs will be a little bit smaller. But so it does make them a little bit bigger. That's a good point, Chris.
Then the first thing I'm going to do is do my document creation from this thing. It's a CAD file to search all that damn text.
So this is one thing that I really like. All right. So another thing in Civil 3D. So this was an AutoCAD thing that I was showing off. A Civil 3D thing that we have now is updates to the subassemblies brought in from Subassembly Composer. So if I bring up my tool space here, I've created a custom one, and I'm going to bring in a subassembly. So I've got a subassembly here, and what you'll notice is there's now an option to link directly to the PKT file. And what this means is that if you have to go in and change the PKT file, you can update the subassemblies in your drawing just by updating them. And it's really cool. Now, I did discover a little something to be aware of when you're doing this, right? So let me go ahead and show that. So let me go ahead and browse to this tailings dam PKT file. And what I'm gonna do is I'm now gonna create an assembly. Oops, not intersection, create an assembly, whatever, don't really care what it's named. Let's see, we'll set that to 1 inch equals 40. And I'll go ahead and attach that there. All right, actually, let me do it in this drawing. Assembly. There we go. That's a little bit more default AutoCAD-like. All right, and so there's my assembly. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to do this again, but instead of attaching it to an assembly, I'm going to create a detached subassembly. So I choose detached, and I'm just going to place it in here as well. And what you'll notice under the Prospector tab, if I come down here to subassemblies, you'll see those 2 subassemblies in here, right? So there's the one subassembly and there's the other subassembly. Let me make this a little bit bigger so we can see it better. There we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go edit the PKT file. All right, so let me go open up my subassembly composer. I think that's just under Autodesk subassembly composer 23, 24. There we go. I'll go ahead and open up that subassembly. And I'm just going to make a change. This is a horrible change. I would never actually do this, but I'm going to change the slope of this very first link here. So instead of using the value that you can input, I'm just going to force it to be a 1-to-1 slope. All right, I'll go ahead and save this. And then back in CAD, if I refresh my subassemblies, you can see they're now out of date. All right, so they're out of date. But if I bring in a new one, and I'll just make this one detached as well, you can see the new one now has that new slope, which is just fantastic. This was so annoying in previous versions. You'd have to like restart CAD and get things off the tool. Just nasty. But now it works just fine. And for the subassemblies that you currently have in the file, all you have to do is right click on this and choose update all assemblies. And what you'll see is all of the subassemblies get updated. Well, except for this one. And so what I've discovered is if it's a detached subassembly, it doesn't update automatically. It seems that it has to be attached to an assembly. Now, I haven't actually tried this. What happens if I take that and attach it to an assembly? So if I create a new assembly here, and I say, hey, I want to add to assembly, and I want to add it to this assembly, then it updates. So interesting. Your detached subassemblies don't update when you update your subassemblies. So those are some of the things that I think are going to be handy when it comes to using the 2024 version. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Tom said it would be nice to have an open PKT and SAC option and right click.
Oh yeah, that would be so, yeah, just right click on here and choose open. You can open in Project Explorer, which I guess is cool. But yeah. Project Explorer comes with 2024 now as a default. You don't have to install it separately. So that's nice.
So I guess this can lead into the first question.
Uh-huh.
What is your favorite 2024 CAD improvement?
You know,
you showed 2 new things in 24. Are any of those your favorite or is something else?
You know, I don't know yet. I haven't had much chance to play around with it a whole lot. One of the other things that I know is available is under pressure network. So if I go to the settings tab and if I go to say a fitting styles, and I think this is cool. If I go into a fitting, you know, this would be like for, you know, an elbow. I thought there was an option in here. Oh, there it is. You can display as a user-defined block. So he's like, hey, I want this elbow to look this way in plan view. But you know, when it's a vertical bend, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for it to be horizontally, you know, bent. So you can actually choose a custom block for vertical bends. So if I have a horizontal bend, it's going to use one block. If it's a vertical bend, it's going to use a completely different block. So that's kind of nice. I've had bad luck with pressure networks recently. So they just do some really odd, bizarre, weird things. So they still need a lot of work. But that's a nice thing. I think if I remember correctly, you have the display as user-defined block. I think this is new as well for the profile. I could be wrong on that one, but I'm not sure. But yeah, I haven't had a whole lot of time to get in and play around with all the features in 2024 yet, but those were a couple that really stuck out to me. And yeah.
Yeah. Brian said that was needed badly. I'm assuming he's talking about the block visibility thing.
Yeah.
And then Brian also said he found out enable DS multi-thread equals 1. And that's when you're setting your working folder over a VPN. He's found much faster speeds.
Ooh, that's a new enable DS multi-thread. What is that? It doesn't find it in the search. Let's see. Enable DS multi-thread. Reads files and checks subfolders in sequence while setting the use multi-threading to read files and check subfolders. So to use multi-threading, well, that makes sense. If you have more than one core on your computer, I would like to be able to use them. But yeah, by default, it looks like it's set to off. So yeah, thanks, Brian. I'll have to give that a try. like I said, is this new in 2024? Is it in 2023 as well? Do you know, Brian? New in 2024. Okay.
2024.
Cool.
All right, so only a few more questions. So as Brian's talking, if you guys come up with other questions, again, pop them into the questions and answers. But we have one through here from Lisa saying, can you walk through CAD Standards Manager?
CAD Standards Manager. CAD Standards Manager. Is that, are you talking about just like concepts of CAD standards, or is there something specific that I don't know about yet? Are you talking about like the CAD standards checker? You know, let's see, that's under, is it, I think, no, it's down here. If I remember correctly, where's my CAD standards? It's one of these, I
Yes,
think.
CAD Standards Checker.
Okay. Do I have it on? I thought it was down here. It's been a while since I've used this. Okay, it's not there. So yeah, there it is, under manage CAD standards. Okay, so really there's two different topics here when it comes to like the CAD standards checker. You have the what's known as a layer translator. All right, so layer translator would be great if you're constantly getting a a set of drawings from one source and you want to take their layers and convert them to your layer standards. All right, so for example, work with a surveyor, and the surveyor is set in their ways and they will not use our layers, but they use their own layers and they're very consistent with using their own layers. So what we can do is we can create a layer translator. Let me make this a little bit bigger here. So over here on the left, we have the layers that are in this drawing, and over here on the right is what we want to map them to. Now, in order to map them to something, you have to have the layer. So I'm going to go ahead and load a drawing, and I'm just going to use I'll use the GEI template here. So let's see, CAD support, Philo 3D templates. All right. So when the surveyor sends me a drawing and it has the layer A-BLDG in it, well, that's not part of my standards. I would much rather it go onto this specific layer here. And I just kind of picked one at random, right? And so I can now map this. And so it's going to take anything that's on this old layer and put it on this new layer. And here are the properties of the new layer. Now, you might have some of the layers that are exactly the same. So you don't want to have to go through and pick it over here, like layer 0, right? I don't want to have to pick layer 0 over here and then layer 0 over here and then map. You can just click map same, and any layers that have the same name will map to each other, right? So it's going to take the C-road-mark from their drawing and map it to the C-road-mark from my template, and it'll set my layer standards for that layer. And then you can go through and do these for the rest of them. And then once you're done, you can go ahead and save this as a standards file. All right, so if I just click save, you can see it's saving it as a DWS. So the next time you get a drawing from that person, you can just go ahead and load that DWS file and then hit translate, and you're done. And all of their layers are converted to your layers, right? So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect is,
should also clarify the configure option. So
say again?
Should clarify the configure option, which it looks like you're going into.
Yeah. So we can also check our drawing against a standards file. So basically what this says is okay, are the way this drawing is set up, does it meet our standards? Right? So if I come in here and I choose check, it says, hey, there's no standards file set up, so it's not going to work yet, but we have to apply a standards file. So what you need to do is you need to create a standards file that has all of your layers, all of your, well, here, let's take a look. All your dimension styles, your layers, your line types, your multi-layer styles, your text styles. You have a drawing that has all of that in it, and then save it as a DWS, a drawing standards file, right? So let me go ahead and load one up here. So I'll go ahead and add a standards file, and we have ours. Is it? Oops. Scan support, Civil 3D 2023. I think I put it in the template. Yep, there we go. So you can see these are DWS files, and it's just basically our template saved as something else, right? So actually, no, it's not, because I created this overall standards. All right, and so this has all of our standards in it. If I come in here to the settings, I can do different things. For example, I can disable the standards notification. So if somebody is working in this drawing and it has a standards file assigned to it, when they do something that's outside of the standards, they won't know about it. You can display alert upon the standards violation, or display the standards status bar icon, right? Check standards settings. You can automatically fix non-standard properties. So if I go in and I create a layer that has the same name as a standard layer, it'll go into my layer and fix all those standard properties to match the layers that are in the standards, right? So I'll go ahead and click OK now, and now I can check the standards, right? And so it comes through and it says, hey, these are all of the issues. So layer 0, the properties are non-standard. So it's going to say, hey, layer 0, I'm going to go ahead and I don't know why it's not letting me fix it. I'll just choose next, and it goes to the next one. It's probably because those are, right? So here's the, so here's a non-standard layer. So C-ano-table is not one of our standard layers. So I want this to go on the A-ano-text layer. All right, so I'll go ahead and fix that, and it's going to convert that layer in my drawing to match the layer in my standards. All right, and you would just go through and set all of those correctly. And so that's kind of the way the standards checkers work. And again, this will go through and check things like dimension styles, text styles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully that helps you out. Do you have any other questions on that? Oh, you got rid of the question. Who was that again, Brian?
It was Lisa, sorry.
Lisa, no worries. If you have any other questions on that, Lisa, let me know, and I can get into more depth.
Great. Since you're still in Revit 24, or excuse me, Civil 3D 24, we'll go to the next question from Jason. Have you tested the new subassembly deployment tricks in Civil 3D 2024?
I have, and I showed them off at the beginning. So that was what I was doing with all of these here.
I think you said the deployment tricks.
I think that's what he's referring to. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jason. Same thing. Yep.
Same thing.
Yep.
All right, then we will jump into a question from Scott. How about BMP for 5 miles of roadway and extreme topo? 1 mile pieces, question mark?
I have no idea. I'm not sure what the question is. Are you talking about like stormwater BMPs?
That was a question from Scott.
Yeah. Profiles, roadway design. So you would like to see the process of creating plan and profile sheets? I'm not exactly sure what you're looking for here, Scott. Best practice for dealing with a 5-mile roadway, break it up all in one, running out of memory. Ah, gotcha. So performance issues. BMP, best management practices, not like stormwater BMPs, like a thalweg, or not a thalweg, like a straw wattle or a silt fence or inlet protection. That's what I was thinking when I saw BMP. My bad. So if you had a super long road and you needed to create a design out of this, what's the best way to do it? Well, I think what it really comes down to is only put into a drawing what you need to create that drawing. All right, that's kind of the mantra I've always said when it comes to Civil 3D. If you've got something that doesn't need to be in that drawing, don't put it in that drawing, right? So you've got your alignment, you got your profile, you got your surface. You're probably going to need to bring those in. but anything that's specific to that sheet should only be in that sheet. If your surface is massive, you might want to tile it up. So you can create a crop surface. So let me see if I can find a decent surface. And let me just do this here real quick. I'm just going to create a new drawing. I have a surface. Let me set my working folder. So this would be, I think this is where it was. Yep, there we go. So I'm going to bring in this existing ground surface, and this isn't a roadway, for example, but it's the concept. There we go. All right, so I've got a surface in here, and this surface is massive, and I don't want to bring this surface into every single one of my drawings. So what I can do is I can tile it up. You know, if it's a roadway design, you probably just want to do in linear chunks, but you know, I'm going to cut this up into 4 surfaces. All right, so let's see, we'll do that one there. Oops. All right, so those are the 4 chunks that I want to break this particular surface up into. Maybe we'll adjust that a little bit, maybe center it a little bit better. There we go. Something along those lines, right? So what you can do is you can create what's known as a cropped surface. So if I go to the Home tab, surfaces, I probably have to promote this first since that was a data reference. All right, so surfaces, I can create a cropped surface. And what this will do is it'll create a new surface in a new drawing. Oh, we got to save the drawing first. Let's see, let's throw it there. All right. So this will create a new surface in a new drawing that is just a piece of it. So to select the crop area, I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, I want to select an object. So I'll select that polyline, which is what a rectangle is. Select a point in the view area to crop. All right, I'm going to have this create a new drawing. And then it's going to ask me for the template. So I'll just use the Civil 3D template here since I don't have 2024 set up for the GEI standards yet. Give this a name. We'll call this the Northwest EG. The surface style doesn't matter. The layer doesn't matter. You can put that stuff in there. And what this has done is this has created a new drawing that has just that corner of the surface in there. Okay, maybe I should have done a better surface style.
Oh, come on, I like the rainbow surface.
Isn't that beautiful? Right. And so you can see it's just a piece of the surface. And then I can create a data shortcut for this and then data reference it into the sheets that it would be displayed. Right. So I could break this up into maybe 1 mile chunks, half a mile chunks, whatever you think would be beneficial. And then this particular sheet is going to see 2 of the surfaces. So you just data reference those 2 surfaces in, and you don't have the massive surface for the entire project in your drawing. Now, what happens if the original surface changes? Right. So let's see.
You have two people questioning you on this, saying, is that crop surface linked back to the original or static?
Yeah, that's a great question. So again, what happens if this original surface changes? Well, this surface here won't change. And the reason it won't change is because there's a snapshot on it. So if I go into the surface, I think I can just do it through the surface properties here. You'll notice under the definition, it created a snapshot. And so basically what a snapshot is, it's saying, hey, ignore all the data and just keep the surface. And so when the surface rebuild happens, it starts at the snapshot and then continues on down through the list. So if you want this crop surface to update when the other surface changes, simply get rid of the snapshot. All right, so let me go ahead and I'm just going to remove it from the definition completely here. And then I'm going to come back here and I'm going to make a change to this surface. Let's see, let's just do something stupid here. I have to do this. Surface, e.g. break lines, we'll add that as a break line. All right, well, that's lovely. Anyways, it's a change. So I'll go ahead and save this drawing. And then what you would have to do is you have to go into each drawing and then just rebuild that surface. So you can see the surface is out of date. So now when I rebuild it, you can see it now has the hole in it as well. So it is somewhat linked to the original surface. You just kind of have to manually go update it, which isn't that big of a deal. So that's one way to help you minimize the amount of data that's in any given drawing, because typically it's the surface that, just bogs things down, because you have, you've gone out and you've flown, the LiDAR for 5 miles of road. That's a crap ton of data. You don't want to have all of that data in your drawing, so create crop surfaces. That'll help you out quite a bit. So
Chris asked, would it be a better option to use subsurfaces with data clips under them?
basically that's what you're doing here. You're clipping out the data. All right, so if I come into the source surface here and I go into the surface properties, we go take a look at the statistics. General, where's the number of points? Is it under 10? Yeah, so number of triangles, 4,411. That's easy to remember. And if I come into this drawing, it should be about a quarter, depending upon how well I drew that. You can see it's 1,049. So I have clipped out 3/4 of the data. I only have a quarter of it here. Data clips, that's for if I don't want to so what was talking about, so let me talk about that here real quick. So when you go create a boundary for a surface, right, you have the option to create a data clip boundary. And basically what this says, it says, hey, I've got a whole lot of data that I'm going to be adding to the surface, but I don't want to use it all. I only want to use this small little piece here. And so you can put a data clip boundary around the piece that you want to keep, and it'll clip out all the data outside of it. Now, that is not a real boundary. It is a data boundary. It's not a surface boundary, right? So let me go open up a drawing here and I will demonstrate this. Not temp. Program data, Autodesk. This is where it is? No. Not program data, should have been program file, sorry. Autodesk, there we go. AutoCAD 2024, C3D, help, civil tutorials, drawings, and let's see, let's go to one of the points. One that has a lot of points in it. There we go. So as you can see, this particular drawing has a whole lot of points in it. So if I draw in a nice little, I don't want a rectangle, I want a polyline in this case. So I'm going to draw this nice little boundary that looks, something like a horseshoe, right? And what you do is you add the data clip boundary to the surface first, and then as the data comes into the surface, anything that's outside of the boundary is ignored. And that's all the data clip boundary does. So if I go create a surface here real quick, let's see, let's give it a nice triangular one. So we'll do contours and triangles. There we go. And then I'm going to add that polyline as a data clip boundary. And then I'm going to add in all the points. So let's see, we'll just add in the all points point group. And what you'll notice is it's still triangulating outside of the data clip boundary. It's not a boundary. It's a limit to the amount to what data gets added to the surface. Now, if I don't want any surface here, I could just go add it as a boundary again. And this time I'll make it an outer boundary. And then it trims it up. So that's just something to be aware of. And I don't think a data clip boundary would necessarily be helpful for that big, long roadway type of a situation. I think the crop surfaces would probably be much more beneficial.
Cool. And are the crop surfaces advantage to doing this versus boundary to the original surface?
Say that again.
So Scott said, are the advantage to doing this, he was talking about your original idea, versus a boundary to the original surface? To the chat.
The crop surfaces versus just a normal boundary? Is that what the
No,
question
he
is?
said that before you did the data. So yes, the crop surface versus a normal boundary.
Yeah, so the crop surface still is again is a piece of another surface, right? So if you wanted to, you could go create 5 different surfaces using the same data and put boundaries around them. In that case, I would use a data clip boundary. But then you have 5 different sources of data because I've got drawing A that has the surface in it and drawing B that has a surface and drawing C that has a surface in it. And if I change the existing ground data, I have to go change it in all those drawings. Whereas with a crop surface, I change it in the source drawing, and then I just go update all of those other drawings.
It makes sense to this non-civil 3D user. And then Tom followed up with your horseshoe boundary there. What about a mask? I think when that came up with when you were talking
with
about
the
your
horseshoe
outer
boundary?
versus
So
Yeah.
all a mask does, so a boundary says remove the surface. So there is no data there. A mask says hide the surface. There's still data there. You can cut profiles through it. You can still label it. I just don't want to see it. So that's what a mask will do. It's, so if you're doing volume calculations, it's still going to use the masked area in those volume calculations. Whereas if you put a boundary around it, it won't because there is no surface there. So hopefully that helps.
Scott
Cool.
said, yep, he did exactly what you displayed. So at least you're validating what he had already
So
done.
I'm curious, Scott, did you know about the snapshot in the crop surface where you can disable that and have it update? I don't know. I'm just curious how many people actually know that. So did not. Oh, cool. So you did learn something new. Yes. Life is complete. Somebody's learned something from me.
Snapshots used with that land XML update as well.
Yeah. So if you import a land XML file, it'll create that snapshot. That way you don't have to keep the land XML file. But if you change the land XML file, your surface won't update, but you can remove the snapshot and then it will.
And Adam said, keep in mind, if you data reference a surface into another file to data clip and or boundary it, your file will actually be larger because you have the original surface plus the data clipped result.
Yep. Yeah, I really think the crop surface is the way to go.
And John agrees.
I don't think people
crop
use
surface.
it nearly as much as they should.
And John agrees the crop surface is the best way to limit Civil 3D data in sheets outside of 2D Pline, XREFs, or contours, and DREF in surfaces with hidden styles. And data clips will not work. He doesn't believe data clips will work on XML or DREF surfaces.
I don't think it'll work on a data reference surface because you can't add any data to the data reference surface. But you could create a new surface and then put in the data clip boundary and then paste the data reference surface into the new surface with the data clip. Oh my gosh, that's just getting confusing.
Chris
Just create the crop surface and be done with it.
Chris said he also did not know about the remove snapshot.
Yeah.
So you taught more than one person the remove snapshot.
Sweet. I'm done for 2 months. All right.
We got to remember about next month before we finish this meeting. So next question that you can do it now if you want to talk about it now before everybody leaves. We got 20 minutes left and only one question. So
yeah, might as well. So next month I will be presenting at Built at the DBWA, the Design Built World Association. I don't even remember what it's called. What's it stand for again, Brian?
Digital Built Week.
Digital Built Week Americas. That's what it is. Thank you. So I will be down in Dallas presenting at that. And so we're actually going to be doing Civil Chat live down in Dallas at the Digital Built Week. So next month's Civil Chat will be on a different date. We talked about it earlier and I forgot the date already. It's Thursday, June 15th. June 15th. Thank you. So I will update the webinar and everybody should get a notice and an update for their calendar, hopefully. If some of my close personal friends that are registered don't get an update, let me know and I'll try to figure out what's going on. I'll make that update this afternoon. So if you don't get it by tomorrow, let me know.
And with that said, that means we'll be taking questions live from the audience as well, because there will be a live audience there. So you might want to have your questions pre-typed up so we can get them in before those live people.
Right. So, and for anybody that's interested, call for proposals for AU is open, if I remember correctly. So if you want to present at AU, go get those in and join us there. Hopefully I'll get to go again this year. Adam says we have until the 15th for that's for the AU proposals. All right, Brian. And if anybody would like assistance with a proposal, want somebody to look it over, read it, give you constructive feedback on it, shoot it my way. I'd be more than happy to help you out with it. If you get accepted and you want some assistance on preparing a presentation, presenting, whatever, I'm also willing to help out with that as well. So just let me know.
Cool. So question from Thomas. When he uses the W block, precision gets reset to 0.00 feet distance and degrees, minutes, seconds, angle. Where's the setting to change this? Would like to keep it set to 3 decimals, better accuracy. I'm not going to repeat all this.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a great question, Thomas. I have no idea if that's even possible. I've never had anybody ask that question before. All right, let me come over here to this drawing and let's see. I'll create a polyline and we'll go into units. And so as you can see, this particular drawing has precision set out to 4 decimal places. I'll change this to, was he using the, degrees, minutes, seconds? Surveyor, we'll do surveyor's units. And we'll set it out to something like ridiculous like that. All right, so that's the way that's set in this particular drawing. So if I W block this out, so I just type W. And let's see, we'll choose objects. Did I select the objects? Can't remember. Oh, that's not what I want. Select the objects. All right, once object selected, we'll go ahead and save this somewhere. C temp delete me. We'll call that new block. Sure, why not? Place the existing new block. I don't think this has anything to do with it, but I'm going to say no for now. And then we'll go open up that drawing.
So my question, and this is actually something Chris came up with, I thought way back in my days of AutoCAD, I remembered that there was a setting to say what template you were using when you W blocked something out.
So it looks like it did maintain the precision and the units and everything. So let's try that again. And this time I'll change the units again, just to make sure I didn't just magically pick the same ones. I'll change this to ridiculously big and just a little big there. I hit yes that time. Ridiculously bright. Yeah, so it is maintaining the units of the drawing that I'm W blocking out of. So I don't know why yours wouldn't be saved.
I'm saying
Could be a fix in 2024. I could launch 2023 here real quick. What version are you using, Thomas? Thomas, are you there?
He left.
He left. He's not going to see the answer to his question. Oh, no. He might be on mute. He forgot to unmute his keyboard.
Simon asked, is this block used for AutoCAD? Then AutoCAD may convert it unit back.
It's an AutoCAD command, so I don't think it would be any difference in Civil 3D.
I think Simon's saying if you opened it in AutoCAD without Civil 3D, would it be different?
It shouldn't, because it's an AutoCAD setting.
Agreed.
Okay, so let's see, polyline. Units. Set everything ridiculously big. Did I close out of that other new block? Oops, wrong one. And C template me a new block. Replace. No. Now if we open. Go into the units. Come on. You can do it. And they're both ridiculously high. So it's not a 2024 thing. So Thomas, I don't know why it's not preserving your units if you watch this after the fact.
But we now know that there is some sort of setting more than likely that can be changed because
Yeah.
it's doing it to him.
Suppose we should go
And
check the super
Simon did
secret
say super secret.
units.
So Simon did say he's noticed if he exports out of Civil 3D and then opens in AutoCAD, often his drawings are set to be unitless, even though he set units in Civil 3D.
Let's see, there's a solution. Oh, that's a great solution. Yeah, I posted up this question. I found out what it was. I'm just not going to tell anybody. All right. That's enough of that one. Yeah, so somebody asked, we got that Anani mouse again coming in here again. Are these being recorded? Yeah, we record them. I put them up on the Civil 3D Plus YouTube channel. Ooh,
And I would post the
John
YouTube channel, but
posted up INS units default target. What does this do? Set target drawing units values when using INS units is set to 0. Might have something to do with it. I doubt it, but it might. What was the other one he said? Units def source. Set source content units value. So basically, I think what those two do, John. So if I've got a drawing that's unitless and I'm bringing it into a drawing that has units, I can say, hey, that actually is inches, right? So even though that drawing doesn't have a unit assigned to it, I'm going to tell my drawing that I'm in that the one that's coming in that doesn't have units assigned to it is actually inches, so it'll scale appropriately. Do they have US survey fit in here? Of course not. They just hate us civil people. Why not have US survey foot in here too? They got freaking parsecs, but no US survey feet. I am so disappointed. All right. Anything else, Brian?
Yeah, one last question just popped in since we have 10 minutes left. I have seen engineers at my company set up roadway alignment profile views in a single DWG and then XREF that DWG into their sheets rather than data shortcutting the alignments profiles and generating the profile views live in a sheet file. What are the pros and cons and which method would be better?
Okay, so just to rehash, so there's two different modes of thinking when you create your plan and profile sheets. One, I create a drawing that has my entire profile view in it. It's 5 miles long, and then I have all everything in this drawing, and then I XREF it into the sheets, and I create a viewport that has just that piece. Now, back in the day, this was back, I think it was in Civil 3D 2008. I had a company call me up that said that it was taking their drawings over a day to plot. So this was like 60 drawings. It took them literally over a 24-hour period to plot just 60 drawings. And what they had done is pretty much exactly what you had said here. And so they had a roadway set of drawings, and in this, so I have my existing ground surface. It's in a drawing, and so I XREF that into my design drawing, right? Because I need to see it, but I need to see the line work, but I also have the surface, so I need to data reference that in here as well. So I now have that surface in this drawing twice, once as a data reference and once as an XREF. And then I need to bring in the sanitary stuff as well. But when I was doing the sanitary stuff, I needed to see the existing line work, so I XREF the existing line work into that drawing, but I needed to use the surface, so I data referenced it into there. And then I XREF that into my sheets as well. And then I XREF in this drawing and this drawing. And what you end up doing is compounding how many times you have stuff in a drawing. And remember what I said very near the beginning of this whole thing. When you're creating sheets, you want to minimize the amount of data that you have in any given drawing. The only thing that should be in that drawing is what is needed to create that drawing. And so, and then on top of that, what this company had done is they had created a viewport for their plan view, a viewport for their profile view, and then they had created viewports along the sides to bring in the elevations, because the profile view was a lot longer than the sheet. So they needed the viewports to bring the elevations in. And then they created a viewport along the bottom for their stationing. And then they created a viewport for their notes, and then a viewport for, and I don't know why they did this, their north arrow. They had like 7 or 8 viewports in each sheet, which meant that these multiple objects had to be regenerated multiple times per drawing. And by the way, freezing Civil 3D objects, they still get calculated at regen time because of the whole dynamic interaction between them. And so you just need to minimize things up. So the way I like to organize stuff is I like to categorize drawings into one of 3 different things. You have like an AutoCAD drawing, or a base drawing, however you want to think about it. And in this drawing should just be AutoCAD stuff, or stuff that's going to be XREF'd into another drawing. So the existing condition line work, right? That's an AutoCAD XREF drawing. Maybe your Civil 3D parcels, because you can't data reference those. Those would be an XREF drawing as well. And then you have your model drawings, and this is where you're doing your Civil 3D modeling. This is where the drawing is going to have my existing ground surface in it, right? I'll XREF in the existing line works to help me create the surface. I'll have my pipes in their own drawing. And in this drawing, I'll data reference in the existing surface. I'll data reference in the proposed surface. I'll XREF in the line work, and then I'll design my pipes. And then when you get to your sheets, you'll have things referenced into the sheet. So I'll data reference in surfaces and alignments and profiles, and then I'll create the profile view for that sheet. I'll XREF in the line work, and I only bring into the sheet what's needed for this sheet, right? And so really, I can't stress it enough, only put into a drawing what you need to create that drawing. If you can keep extra stuff out, do it. And so if you put everything into one drawing and XREF it into all of your other drawing sheets, then you're bringing in a lot of data that you just don't need. And we don't want to do that. So hopefully that was able to answer your question. I know I'm a little passionate about it, and I speak a little fast when I talk about it, but really you just do it. If you're working on a really ridiculously small project that's like 2 sheets, okay, maybe. But if you're doing anything of substance, then yeah, you really want to make sure you use data references, XREFs, create the sheets independent of each other. Maybe put 2, maybe 3 sheets in the same drawing.
Yeah, see, I don't even agree with that, because then you're going to add surface, and those 2 to 3 sheets are going to turn to 20, and then there's going to be another add surface, and then pretty soon you're just going to be, well, we're too far down the line. It's going to take us 4 days to print.
Right, and it just starts compounding, and yeah, just nastiness.
So Ian says, yeah, that's just a rat's nest of files. And he said, is Brian's format rant ending soon?
Yeah, sorry about that. I have a tendency to go off on that.
But then Sid said you nailed it. It's perfect.
Thanks, Sid. I appreciate that. Todd mentioned that the US survey foot has been deprecated. Right. Sure, maybe not for Newark, but we've got what? couple hundred years worth of old plats and legal descriptions that were done in US survey feet. So Civil 3D needs to keep the US survey foot, and AutoCAD needs to keep the US survey foot until all of those old documents no longer exist.
I
Then
find it
it will
odd that
truly
if
be
they,
deprecated.
and if they got rid of that in Civil 3D, I find that odd because they literally just added that to Forma like a year and a half, 2 years ago, and now Revit has it. So
Mhm.
just because we are getting transition areas, like, oh yeah, so that's part of their default units on the Forma platform
Yeah.
or Forge or whatever the hell it's being called this week.
Let's see.
And I think it's great that Brian says he didn't know he could do it in yards. All of his drawings in the future are not going to be done in yards, and we don't have to worry about the survey.
Yeah, and you can see in Colorado, we have NAD 83 US foot. We don't have NAD 83 international foot yet in Colorado. So it may be theoretically deprecated, but it's not. So yeah, it's going to be a while before we can just say, what the hell do you mean US survey foot? It'll happen eventually.
I don't even know what you guys are talking about. The federal government got rid of that. I was told in 76 when I was in school that, hey, we're using all metric now. So why are you guys talking this whole foot thing? I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, I had the same thing. So yeah, you and I went to school about the same time in the same state, in the same general area. And so everything was, we're going to make the change to the metric system. So everything was metric. I get out of high school, I join the army, and I go to Germany, right? Everything's metric over there. I get out of the army and I go to the university. It's international. Everything's metric. I get to my first job and they're like, we need to put a 3-foot inlet in there. Like 3 feet. Let's see. I'm 6 feet. So that's about half of me. So, all right. Well, we only got a couple minutes left. Looks like there's no more questions. So thank you everybody for coming today. I really appreciate it. I had a good time today. I hope you did as well. If you have any questions that you think would be good for Civil Chat, come bring them next month. Love to see you again. And remember, next month is going to be on a different day. I'll send out the reminder through Zoom, and we'll see you all then. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.